I want to read a snippet out of the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. I've done this before and a lot of you really liked it. I'm going to do it again. Let's see. There is a solution, chapter 2, pages 20 to 21 out of the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. There is a solution. Moderate drinkers have little trouble in giving up liquor entirely if they have a good reason for it. They can take it or leave it alone. Then we have a certain type of hard drinker. He may have the habit badly enough to gradually impair him physically and mentally. It may cause him to die a few years before his time. If a sufficiently strong reason, ill health, falling in love, change of environment, or warning of a doctor becomes operative, this man can also stop or moderate, although he may find it difficult and troublesome, and he may even need some medical attention. But what about the real alcoholic? He starts off as a moderate drinker. He may or may not become a continuous hard drinker, but at some stage of his drinking career, he begins to lose all control of his liquor consumption once he starts to drink. I love this reading and I want to talk about it today because this last week I've lost 2 people to this illness. One was a very dear friend of mine who actually helped me get sober, but you know, the damage he did to his body while he was out there, his liver failed him later in years here after many years of sobriety, and he had to go for liver replacement and it was rejected. That was a huge loss for me. And the other one was a new friend that I made. It was a really good friend of mine's son who we were trying to help, and he died of a drug overdose. As I say often, heroin users, when they clean up and they are sober for a while and then they go back out and use, they're trying to recapture that original buzz, and that's usually when we lose them. And this was a huge loss. A beautiful man, 2 beautiful children, just tragic. And it happens every day, all the time. And it's just so rampant now. I don't know if we even take in the magnitude of the people that we're losing to alcoholism and addiction. It's become so common. You can see it with celebrities. The celebrities are no different than we are. And you can see when younger people are dying and you look up how they died, it's usually something to do with alcoholism or drug addiction. My heart goes out to all the family and friends. And why I do this is so it may help somebody. Let's talk about this a little bit, because I was always pissed off. I grew up partying, just a regular girl partying from Spokane, Washington. And a lot of my friends partied, and many of them quit. They just went on with their lives. We graduated, they went to college, they continued to drink, got married, and they just went on. And I was unable to do that. That wasn't my story. And I know there's a few other classmates of mine that have stories like mine. What is that about? A moderate drinker, we all know them because they just piss us off, right? They're the ones you go to dinner with and they order a glass of wine and they drink about 3/4 of it and they're done, and they just pay the bill and they go, oh, let's go. And you're like, aren't you going to finish that? The type, right? Somebody that can walk in and say, hi, we're here for your party. Oh, great. Do you want something to drink? I'll have a beer. Oh, we don't have any beer. I'll take a Coke, right? That kind of thing, where I would be like, no worries. I brought beer in my car. You know what I mean? No worries. I drank a 6-pack before I came and I'm leaving in about 5 minutes because you don't have any booze. We know the moderate, some people say normal, but I think a moderate drinker, someone that could take it or leave it alone. And then you have a heavy drinker. Now, a lot of people might really mistake a heavy drinker for an alcoholic. They are not the same. A heavy drinker is someone, just like they explained, that really can put them away, right? A party hard guy. Think of college guys, right? A lot of these guys are heavy drinkers in college, and then they move on and they've got their degree and they start their life and they let it go. Something happens, or something happens in your life and you decide, I'm not drinking anymore. A close call, a family member dies from addiction or alcoholism, and you just say, that's enough, right? That's a heavy drinker. And then there's the alcoholic. Now, the alcoholic, it's really hard to explain this, but a heavy drinker drinks too much, right? They're into the habit of drinking too much. They might affect them a little bit, but they don't have the mentality of an alcoholic. An alcoholic is affected, it centers in their mind, right? So it's a mental illness. It's different than heavy drinking. It's a thinking. Now, how you can tell, how I could tell that I was alcoholic was by the way I felt sober. I didn't sober up and feel better. I sobered up and felt worse. And my head was running and racing and I couldn't take it, right? I'd have to drink again. Just untreated alcoholism. You can tell an alcoholic, like I'll use me for example. If I quit treating my alcoholism, you will see alcoholic behavior. You will see alcoholic thinking, just sober, right? My thinking is not right, right? My thinking veers on a real selfish, self-centered, it's all about me. Very much, if you know anything about mental health issues, very much the same. The world becomes very small. It's all about me. You're doing something to me. You're talking about me. I become paranoid. I'm really angry. I'm irritable, restless, and discontent, right? And I'm sure you've seen someone like that. Even maybe when you were a child, maybe you had an uncle or something that was on the wagon, or an aunt or somebody, and they were miserable sons of bitches, right? And you'd think to yourself, God, I wish they'd just have a drink. God. And that's because of the torture that's going on in their head mentally. Now, an alcoholic is trying to treat that mental illness, is trying to turn off or tune in those radio stations, right? There's like 50 radio stations. They're all loud, different languages, and they're blaring all at the same time. And you're trying to dial into one. And it seems like, here's a good example. In that movie, Airplane, I think it's called Airplane, with Denzel Washington. And he is trying to stay sober for his big court appearance, right? Because he was under the influence when he saved all those people on that plane, right? He was dialed in. He was he knew what to do, right? Because he was drinking and using at the time. His mental illness he was sharp, right? He was treating his mental illness with those drugs. Fortunately, it has really bad side effects. But then he sobers up and he's a hot mess, right? And he's just like, he's scared. It's just terrible. And they take him to a hotel and they put him in a room where he can sober up and be safe and not drink. They can watch him until he goes to court. And he like jimmies the lock that joins the adjoining room and gets in there and gets in the mini bar. And he's just a mess. They come in and he's just a mess. They call his drug dealer. These attorneys knew, we got to get this guy well, right? Not sicker. We got to get him well. And so they call in the drug dealer, and it's, I don't know, John Goodman. He's excellent. And he comes in and he lays out some lines and he gives him a couple drinks. And Denzel Washington takes a couple drinks, snorts a couple lines, and he looks up and he says, I'm back. That's alcoholism. I know that feeling. When I saw that in the movie theater, I was like goosebumps. I'm back. I know what that is. If you know what that is, then listen up, because you may have this mental health issue called alcoholism. The problem with alcoholism is you can treat that thinking with that alcohol, or if there's no alcohol, you'll use drugs, sex, porn, gambling, gaming, whatever that is that brings you to the I'm back, right? And it switches around. That's what switching addictions are. That physical, all of a sudden becomes a physical craving. There's a craving that develops in an alcoholic where you have to have it. Example, during the pandemic, if you remember, They only had essential businesses open. What was one of the essential businesses that the government left open? Liquor stores. You know why? Because people had to treat their alcoholism or they were going to lose their mind. And there were people walking into convenience stores just drinking the hand sanitizer full of alcohol, that hand sanitizer, just drinking it off the counter. And people were going, oh my God, what is wrong with this person? They had to have it, right? It's not because they didn't love their family. It's not because of this. It's not because of that. They physically had to have it. Once you get it in your body, then your mind kicks in and starts obsessing. Yes, obsessing, almost like a compulsive disorder, obsessive compulsive disorder. All you can think about is where your next drink or drug is coming from, right? So now you got the physical craving and you got this mental obsession. I got to get more. I got to get more. I got to get more. That's the part where people they'll do anything to get that, to treat that physical craving, right? That's alcoholism. It's not a lack of willpower. It's not bad upbringing. It's not lack of religion. It's not because you grew up on the wrong side of the tracks. There are people that are born with alcoholism, this mental health issue, that are some of the richest people on the planet, some of the most talented people on the planet, right? Now, a lot of times you think about an alcoholic like a brown bagger, and I think that's because a lot of people, first thing, we don't have enough mental health care in this nation. I'm not going to talk about the other countries, but in this country, we are sadly lacking the resources, especially for children, that they need for mental health. What do? They have undiagnosed mental health issues, so they start to treat it with drugs and alcohol. Sometimes it starts in your very own medicine cabinet. Your kid is looking for a way to say, I'm back, right? I'm okay. Try to just get up to the level of everybody else on the planet, right? So they're searching something. It's food, it's porn, it's gaming, it's gambling, it's alcohol, it's drugs. Everybody has their own favorite, right? Their drug of choice, so to speak. When people have a mental health issue and they're trying to treat it with drugs and alcohol, now you have two problems. You have a dual diagnosed person, right? These people on the streets, a lot of them are just mental health people that should be having proper mental health care and medication on a regular basis. And if they had access to that, they probably wouldn't be drinking and drugging. That's not to say everybody, but that is a huge, huge problem in every city across our nation. And it's not a puzzle. It's not. If you don't have anything to treat, you will use anything to treat this, to get comfortable in your own skin, right? That is a quick, not very quick, long video about a complicated topic. And I am not a doctor, and I am not a therapist or a counselor. I am a recovering alcoholic addict who had to figure out what the fuck was wrong with her, because it was killing me. I had been sober for 14 years when I relapsed, and I couldn't understand that. How did that happen? How did that happen? And that's why I talk about this. And I do a lot of talking to the families and friends of the alcoholic addicts, because they don't understand. And if you don't understand, how can you respond, right? People aren't bad, they're sick. And you got to know how to respond to that, because it's the only illness that makes you think you don't have it, right? So you have to really battle someone's mind. And how do you do that? That's what I talk about. If you have a loved one who you think might have a problem and you don't know if they are a moderate drinker, a heavy drinker, an alcoholic, I have created a quiz to help people so they can kind of figure out where they're on the spectrum and how to get help. And the quiz is in the link in my thing up there by my picture, and you can click on that and do the quiz, and then I will send you a personalized playlist about where you're at and what to do to support your loved one and take care of yourself. Because the other thing about this illness, because it is a mental physical illness, it affects everybody in the family. It's a family illness. If you like this video, please, of course, like it and share it so other people can understand what is wrong with them. Because until you understand the problem, the solution makes no sense. I'm not that bad, I don't get it. But once you know what's wrong, then you can do something about it.